Once upon a time, in France, 12 strangers made in 3 weeks a Flexagon, made out of local natural materials. How is that possible, you may wonder? And wait, 12 strangers? Also, how did they end up together? Well, Paula and Peter, a couple from the Netherlands, organized a 3-week workshop to build a straw bale house. Not for professionals, just everyday people with a shared interest. Somehow, that idea brought 12 strangers together on a field, surrounded by tires, tools and a lot of clay. So how did this project, building a house from natural materials with people who had never met, actually begin? It all started with an interesting Dutchman, Tom Rijben.
So thinking about the philosophy, in particular behind what you call Flexagon, in 2 words, what is the philosophy? The right of humans for a roof, and that it is available for everybody. That I learned that everybody has never been in construction in 3 weeks, that it is available is also in a financial way, because you can do it yourself and in particular with others. So it is a social thing finally for me. That's also what you see here, or what I was touched the most is, sure, it looks nice and so on, but it's in particular how people work together on a thing what everybody needs.
So now it's clear what the philosophy is behind the Flexagon. Why did Peter and Paula decide to start this interesting adventure?
Me and my boyfriend Peter, we decided to build a house like this because we wanted to build a house with natural materials and a cheap way to build a house and with a little ecological footprint. That were for us important things to think about. And also the insulation is very important because we want a passive house that we don't need much heating to heat the house or anything else to cool the house in summertime. And building with straw and clay is a very good way of doing that. We financed this project with just saving money. It's very easy to build this house in different parts. So you don't have to build the house in once. We are going to make 3 hexagon-shaped rooms, if you like to call it like that. And so we're building one now, then we have time to save money for the next one. And of course we already had a little bit saving money, but we are not going to get a loan or a mortgage. We really want to do it independent. And well, the Flexagon team also calls it building without a bank. So that's what we are trying to do. If you want to do it very, very cheap and you have everything with you, you can build 1 hexagon for 6,000 euros, just roughly the rough building, you know, the walls, the floor and the roof. For us it will be a little bit more expensive because we made different choices, but that's why it's very interesting. You can make it as expensive as you want or as cheap as you want. For us it was really cheap to find this place in France, in the Dordogne. We know it should be the Dordogne where we wanted to live and build a house. We searched online, but we also went to a real estate agent and he was very friendly. He just took us in his car and he said, let's just drive around some places that I have for you. And so we did that on a Friday morning and he brought us to many places, but they were all not what we are looking for. And when we ended up here, it was pouring rain and he didn't even want to get out of the car. And we were like, yeah, we really want to see this place because the street that leads here is already really nice. A small road with trees and a lot of green. So we got out of the car and it was a little piece where you could build a house and a lot of trees. And that's what we were looking for. So for us it was easy, but some people need a little bit more time.
Now that the story of Peter and Paula is clear, the 12 strangers who built this structure still haven't been introduced. So it's best to start at the beginning. Before building anything, they needed to prepare the workspace. For a straw bale house, that means preparing the materials. They turned 3 old bathtubs into mixing stations. One for clay yogurt, the other for barbotines. Chang quickly became a regular fixture there, always ankle deep in clay, working quietly and steadily in the messiest part of the job. They also built a large table for the bodycoat and as the days went on, a few more scaffolds. often with help from Tony, who was always lending a hand wherever needed, even if it meant nearly losing a finger or two. Like any house, this one started with the foundation, or actually with Annemarijn, who started to love working with tires, which are used as the base of the house. First, they measured the center of the house. The tires were placed in a circle, leveled out to the millimeter, especially important for Adrien, the workshop instructor, who had high standards and sharp eyes. They laid fabric beneath the tires to stop rocks from digging into the soil, then filled them with stones to the exact level they'd marked. A flat wooden board on top finished each tire base. With the foundation complete, they moved on to the wooden construction. The house's main structure was an hexagon. They built 6 U-shaped frames and triangles as the corners of the house. Everything was cut and assembled to tight measurements, again Adrien's influence. Each frame was treated. First a layer of 50-50 linseed oil and turpentine, then pure linseed oil and finally vegetal tar on the bottoms to waterproof them. They filled the wooden U-shapes with lava stones and reused plastic bottles for insulation. The triangles were filled with straw. Martin happily took that on. He seemed to enjoy this very much. But the frame was just a shell, so the next step was to fill it with straw. Before placing them, they checked each bale. They needed to be roughly 65 cm long. And then came the French dip. And no, not like this, but like this. They dipped the straw bale on both sides in barbotine. What is barbotine? It's clay and water, but it needed the right consistency. The mixture needed to fit like a glove on your hand. Once dipped, the bales were left to dry a bit, better ventilation, easier to handle. Then came the placement. There's a trick. Angle them in, then push them into position with a bale lifter. Glenn always knew how to get them in the correct position. After that, they danced on them, cut the strings and fixed them into place with 2 buttons, as tight as possible. Then, repeat. The top part of the wall was actually the most difficult. Nicolas was there to manage these tricky pieces. They had to make the last layer leveled perfectly and sometimes even create diagonal shapes. Of course, they were all beginners. Not every wall was perfect. Some bowed out slightly, what they jokingly called dancing walls. They filled gaps with straw and added sticks to firm things up. Not ideal, but it worked. Throughout all this, Ivan was constantly in motion, carrying tools, fetching materials, helping wherever someone needed something. No need to shout twice, he was already on his way. Once the straw was in place, it still didn't look much like a house. Time to cover the walls. First came the clay yogurt, just clay and water, blended smooth. This got applied directly to the straw to help the next layer stick. Then came the body coat, a thicker, fermented clay mixture made with straw, hay, clay, sand, water and a fermented starter like beer or wine. They let it sit at least 24 hours before using it. Applying it was straightforward. Press on a chunk, smooth it upward, level it with a ruler, fine-tune with a pull trowel and finish with the piranha tool. Adèle enjoyed this part, adding small details, testing textures and, eventually, her own art. The roof came next, but by then, the 3 weeks were almost up. The house wasn't fully finished, but the progress was real. They'd started from nothing. Most of them had never built anything before. And yes, it rained a lot. But in 3 weeks, 12 strangers built a lasting structure. And somewhere in the process, they stopped feeling like strangers at all.
12 people together, building a house. 12 people together, and sometimes a nice come out. All is together, all who is always happy, never blue. We all listen together, all good. The guy who knows how to pre-screw. We don't worry, but are happy, 'cause in 2 weeks we have an hexagon. We don't worry, but are happy, 'cause it's 1 week very, very bold.